What's going on, everyone? I'm back with another video. This video is going to be looking at why Dean Smith was the right man in charge to take over Norwich. After negotiating a contract with Frank Lampard and having things fall through, Dean Smith is the better option of the two managers. And before we start and get into the tactics behind why Dean Smith is the better option, check out both my books. They're online on Amazon, and there's links in the description below. Also, check out Efficiency Match. That's the app I use to make this video, and that is in the App Store with a free download. So now we're going to talk about mainly the defensive and transition phase of Dean Smith and his tendencies throughout his teams, because with Norwich I think they'll have less of the ball, but when they do get it, they'll get it in more advantageous areas and be able to use it more effectively. So first off, I think Dean Smith will go with a 4-4-2 because of the personnel choices he has at his disposal. Last year for Aston Villa, he went with more of a 4-2-3-1, but that suited the players that he had, and he started the season this year in a 3-5-2, but also again adapting to his players. So I think a 4-4-2 would be the appropriate approach for Dean Smith in this Norwich job. So what we see now is, against most of the teams in the Premier League this season, they use the three central corridors in the build-up one way or another, whether this is through three central defenders, asymmetric back four like City, or a deep-lying playmaker from midfield like Liverpool. But either way, the main tendency of these teams is to use these central corridors in their first line using three players. So now what we'll see is how Norwich can then look to control the half spaces, especially the advanced players in these areas, and the more attacking options, with the four-man midfield and a more of a box formation becoming more of the norm. So these players in these areas are crucial for Dean Smith saving Norwich in the Premier League after being relegated in their last attempt. So what we have now is Dean Smith's method of pressing in the half space and wide area. So with two forwards, it would easily occupy a double pivot, or with a single pivot, if we just change the shape slightly, we could even have a more spatial oriented approach, with then a staggering of the two forwards, forcing the ball into the wide area in a little bit more of a clear way. But now with the double pivot, we then create a numerical equality situation among the midfield, or even a numerical superiority situation in midfield when the ball is in the central area and the players are more spatially oriented. Then when the ball gets played in the half space, we can see the pressing method of these players. So we have one of our forwards stay, another forward stagger themselves to then create dual access to the weak side double pivot and to block off circulation. Then we'll have our wide midfielder jump and go and press the wide central defender, and then have our back four shift across and follow suit, maintaining a numerical advantage at the back. And then our double pivot will also swing across and provide cover, with our weak side player being crucial in this instance to then create access to both the weak side holding midfielder of the opponent, and then also provide a little bit of cover in the weak side half space in the advanced area. So what this will do is it'll create a man-oriented approach in the half space and look to isolate the ball. So then what we can see is when the ball is won, either as a result of the pressing, winning the ball from the defender, or as a result of a mistake indirectly from the pressing, we then have the crucial moments in the match for Norwich this season, which is the transition. So from here, ahead of the ball, we have players occupying each of the central corridors, and these are the four players. And the main thing that Dean Smith's sides do so well, especially last season, is their ability to transition. And when transitioning, it's important to stay as narrow as possible while being able to create meaningful space, because the wider your team goes in transition, the further away you play from goal. But if you are able to stay narrow, if the back three narrows and we can stay narrow, the ball could be played directly towards goal, and you can beat your opponent much quicker than if the player comes out wide. So using this minimal width concept in transition will be crucial for Dean Smith. And I think with the two forwards that he'll implement, it'll also give them ability to retain possession in a little bit more of a pragmatic way. So when the team does drop off defensively, and we have our 2 forwards occupying the 3 central defenders, and maybe even we have a narrow wingers in the offensive phase with our double pivot. We can then have asymmetry in our back 4, potentially creating a back 3, and then advancing one of the fullbacks to then get put into a deep crossing position, which could then target the weak side back post players or take advantage of runs from the 2 forwards. So these are all concepts that can be applied with Dean Smith's side, but mainly the double pivot will be crucial for giving this team control over a lot of their matches and being stable in possession, but using it in a more purposeful and more vertical way. And also the transition, as we talked about, being able to use minimal space to transition quickly and create goal scoring opportunities when they do win the ball in more advantageous areas. And that's going to wrap up the analysis. Just a quick analysis, quick introduction to Dean Smith and Norwich. There'll be follow-up videos on him after his first game, but I'll see you then.